The archaeological expedition to Kepler 442b was supposed to be routine. Dr. Alexei Volkov had spent 15 years studying the remnants of the predecessor civilizations, those mythical species that had supposedly ruled the galaxy millions of years before the current spacefaring races emerged. Most of his colleagues considered it a fool's errand, chasing ghosts and legends. But Alexei believed, and the anomalous readings from Kepler 442b's ocean floor had finally given him something concrete to pursue.
Depth, 11,000 meters and descending, announced Lieutenant Zara Okonkwo from the submersible's pilot seat.
The pressure hull creaked ominously as they dove deeper into the alien ocean, their lights barely penetrating the crushing darkness.
Beside Alexei sat Tkresh, a mantis-like Vrax scientist whose compound eyes reflected the instrument glow.
"I still maintain this is illogical," Tkresh clicked, his translated voice carrying skepticism. "No predecessor artifacts have ever been found in this sector.
The Vrax Empire has mapped this region for 12,000 cycles." "Then explain the quantum resonance signatures," Alexei countered, pointing to the display.
"That's manufactured graviton emissions.
Something down here is still active." The sonar pinged, and Zara let out a low whistle. "Contact. Massive structure dead ahead. Sizes, that can't be right." It wasn't right. It was impossible. Rising from the seafloor like a metal mountain was a warship that dwarfed anything in the known galaxy. Its hull stretched for nearly 15 kilometers, a sleek predatory design that made modern dreadnoughts look like children's toys. Strange symbols covered its surface, not the flowing script of the Vrax, not the geometric patterns of the Kethvar, but something that made Alexei's heart stop. "Those are letters," he whispered. "Latin letters." Tkresh's antennae twitched in confusion. "Impossible.
Humanity achieved spaceflight only 3 centuries ago. This vessel is at minimum 4 million years old based on the sediment layers."
Alexei's hands trembled as he zoomed in on the markings. Through the corrosion and age, he could make out words: UNSC Eternal Vigil Earth Colonial Fleet.
"Get me a calm link to the consortium immediately," Alexei said, his voice barely controlled.
"We need to report this." The discovery sent shockwaves through the galaxy.
Within weeks, 12 more vessels were found scattered across different star systems, all bearing variations of the same impossible truth: they were human.
Ancient human.
Predating every known civilization by millions of years. The Galactic Consortium, which had always viewed humanity as the awkward newcomers, suddenly faced an existential crisis. Admiral Catherine Zhang of Earth's Stellar Navy stood before the Consortium Council, a chamber where representatives of 47 species had gathered in emergency session. The holographic displays around her showed images of the discovered vessels, each
one a technological marvel that put modern engineering to shame.
"The Vrax Empire claims 12,000 years of continuous history," spoke Executor Vraxith, his mandibles clicking with barely contained anger.
"The Tal Shiran Confederacy traces its lineage back 18,000 years. You humans appeared 300 years ago, primitive and ignorant. Now you expect us to believe you once ruled the stars?"
Catherine met his compound gaze without flinching.
"We don't expect anything. We're as shocked as you are. But the evidence doesn't lie. Those ships are human, and they're older than any of your civilizations."
"A trick," hissed Ambassador Sleth of the Serpentine Coalition.
"A human deception to claim superiority."
"Then explain this," interrupted Dr. Yuki Tanaka, humanity's chief xenoarchaeologist.
She activated a hollow projection showing complex genetic analysis.
"We've recovered biological samples from stasis pods aboard the Eternal Vigil.
The DNA is 98.7% identical to modern humans.
That's closer than the relationship between humans and chimpanzees. These were our ancestors." The chamber erupted in chaos. Over the following months, the investigation deepened.
With consortium reluctance and human determination, research teams began accessing the ancient vessel's data cores. What they found rewrote galactic history.
4.5 million years ago, humanity had been a sprawling interstellar civilization.
Earth hadn't been their homeworld, it had been a colony, one of thousands. The ancient humans had possessed technology that seemed like magic, faster than light drives that didn't require hyperspace, weapons that could collapse stars, shields that bent the fabric of reality itself. They had been peaceful explorers and builders who seeded life throughout the galaxy. But something had gone wrong. The data cores spoke of an enemy, something from beyond the galactic rim. An intelligence so vast and alien that ancient humanity couldn't comprehend its motives. The war had lasted centuries, ending in a Pyrrhic victory. Humanity had won, but at a cost that shattered their civilization. In their final act, the surviving humans had activated something called the Great Reset, a galaxy-wide pulse that wiped out all advanced technology and reset intelligent life to its pre-industrial state. They did it to protect the galaxy from whatever horrors they'd awakened, to ensure that if those entities ever returned, they wouldn't find civilizations advanced enough to weaponize against each other. Earth's humans, the descendants of a forgotten colony world, had evolved naturally from that reset, never knowing their true heritage. They sacrificed everything, Alexei said, standing in the restored bridge of the Eternal Vigil alongside Catherine and Tresh. The ancient command center had been partially reactivated, its systems still functioning after millions of years. They could have saved themselves, fled to another galaxy. Instead, they chose to protect all future life, even if it meant losing themselves. Tresh's antennae drooped in what Alexei had learned to recognize as respect. I owe your species an apology, Dr. Volkov. The Vrax Empire has treated humanity with condescension. We did not know we stood before the children of giants. We didn't know either, Catherine replied softly. And maybe that's the point. Our ancestors didn't want to be remembered as conquerors or gods. They wanted the galaxy to have a fresh start. But the discoveries kept coming, and not all of them were comforting. In the deepest data archives, they found warnings. The ancient enemy hadn't been destroyed, merely delayed. The entities from beyond existed outside normal time, and they were patient. The Great Reset had bought the galaxy 4 million years, but eventually, they would return. And they were returning. Deep space monitoring stations began detecting the same anomalies that ancient human logs described. Ripples in spacetime that suggested something massive was approaching from the intergalactic void. The consortium's best estimates gave them perhaps 2 centuries before first contact. 2 centuries to prepare for an enemy that had nearly destroyed a civilization far more advanced than anything the current galaxy possessed. But humanity, in recovering their history, had also recovered something else, the activation codes for the ancient fleet. Catherine stood before the consortium once more, but this time the chamber was silent with attention. Our ancestors built these ships to protect the galaxy. They're ours by right of blood and heritage. We propose reactivating and crewing them under a joint consortium command structure. And if we refuse? Executor Vraxith asked, though his tone carried curiosity rather than hostility. Catherine smiled grimly. Then we'll do it anyway. Because that's what humans do, we protect our home. All 4 million years ago, and right now. Earth might have been a colony world, but this galaxy is our birthright, and we'll be damned if we let anything take it from us or our neighbors. The vote was unanimous. Across the galaxy, the ancient human warships began powering up, their reactors igniting after millions of years of sleep. Modern engineers worked alongside AI systems older than mountains, learning from technology they could barely understand. And crews from 47 species trained together, preparing to crew vessels built by humanity's forgotten ancestors. In orbit above Earth, the UNSC Eternal Vigil hung like a silver monument to a past that refused to stay buried. On its bridge, Catherine watched as other ancient vessels lit up across the sector, beacons of hope against the coming darkness. They're beautiful, Alexei said, standing beside her. They're terrifying, Catherine corrected. Weapons of unimaginable power, built by people desperate enough to use them. Our ancestors paid a price we can barely comprehend. Then we honor them by making sure their sacrifice wasn't in vain. Catherine nodded, her reflection ghostly in the viewport. Somewhere beyond the rim of the galaxy, something ancient and hungry was stirring. But the galaxy wasn't defenseless anymore. The old guard had returned, and this time, they weren't alone. Humanity had been older than empires once. Perhaps, Catherine thought, it was time to remember how.